People who work for airlines, what are secrets passengers don't know? When flying overseas, there are generally no systems tracking the movement of your aircraft for several thousand miles, i.e. how they go missing. People fake needing a wheelchair to gain boarding priority. 10 wheelchairs get on and only one person needs it getting off. We call them miracle flights. I worked with cruises for a while, and apparently there's this constant problem with elderly people feigning feebleness to get the prized wheelchair cabins, which have more space and a bigger shower. They'll borrow walkers and wheelchairs from friends in attempts to pull off the ruse. The cruise lines that cater to majority old people get really cutthroat about it to a funny degree. You'll find these big warnings when buying a handicap accessible cabin that state that occasional use mobility devices don't count, and you need to present medical forms as well. On top of this, there's a disclaimer that if you buy the handicap cabin, that it can be switched to a person with real need immediately once you get on board, and then they can stick you in the shittiest cabin left. I read up stories on it, and apparently non-handicapped people do get booted, even if they are 80, and they get super pissed about it. This is great. My dad recently became wheelchair bound, and it's amazing how many people try to abuse disabled amenities. Last week we tried to go to the movies, but the whole row of wheelchair seats were booked. Mum and I ended up going anyway, and none of the people in those seats had wheelchairs next to them. If you checked your dog, there's about a 30% chance it's terrified before it even gets on the plane. Who knows how scared it gets during the actual flight? Bagroom agents will usually try to comfort a scared animal, but all we can really do is talk to it. So if you write your pet's name on their carrier, it usually helps a lot. I've never seen a cat who was scared in the bagroom. Cats don't give a duck. Had to fly an owl once. They had to drug the shit out of it first. It was sad equals. That's like transporting a whale via submarine. That there's a huge list of things that can be missing from the aircraft while still being allowed to fly. True. It's called a minimum equipment list, MEL. Counterintuitively, it's a list of what can be broken on the aircraft while it still remains airworthy. It should be noted that the operational limits of the aircraft are altered to respond to broken parts. For instance, if certain lights are broken, the aircraft is restricted to daytime use. Usually there's two. MEL is, as you said, minimum equipment list. That's produced by the airline and mentions things such as passenger entertainment, some lighting, galley equipment etc. These are also tailored depending on the aircraft's operation. For instance, an Arctic Circle airliner won't want to fly with some of its heating and cold weather braking / de-icing not working, whereas a flight in California can function fine with faulty on-ground de-icing equipment. The MMEL or Master Minimum Equipment List is produced by the manufacturers of the aircraft. It contains the list of sort of minimum equipment list. You know how all the other armrests can be raised except for the one next to the aisle. Turns out that one can be raised as well via a small button and a divot on the underside of the armrest. Useful if you want to spread out a bit more, though some flight attendants may tell you to put it back in place. That's a good way to get a sore elbow / knee. It's also a good way to get out of your O quicker. Every second matters. If you check a skateboard by just slapping a sticker on it, it will get ridden or used as a dolly. Might check my skateboard just to entertain the baggage dudes. Do it with a skateboard you don't really care about, and put a notice on it saying not fragile. Handle with fun. Apostrophe. Paramedic here. If you switch on your alarm lights on the ambulance while being on the inner field of the airport, because, well, you just get there sometimes, they will totally shut down all incoming and outgoing flights until they know exactly what's going on. My buddy learned this the hard way. Needless to say, people got mad at him. Nothing says you ducked up like being the subject of an FAA incident report. At least he didn't get the "I have a phone number for you to call" after you are on the ground. There are a number of tools out there to help you have a good flight experience. Seat Guru link. seatguru.com/ will give you information on seat selection, so you know if your seat has a misaligned window or extra legroom, etc. Route happy link. routerhappy.com/aggregates some key factors aggregating data on aircraft type, seat pitch, onboard entertainment, connections, etc. to help you select a good flight. Flight stats link. flightstats.com/go/flight rating/flight rating by route. Do has data including information on the historical on-time performance of your flight. Some fun airline websites include Flight Radar 24 link, flightradar24.com/ which shows you all flights in the air around the world. You can click on a plane to see its origin and destination. You can filter by airport to see all flights headed to / from your city. It's a lot of fun to play around with. Airline Empires link. airlineempires.com/ is a web game that lets you run your own airline, deciding where to open routes, how to price them, what aircraft to purchase, etc. and compete against other real people running their fictional airlines. Don't forget link.com/ which uses some funny booking tricks to get you places cheaply, e.g. booking at an error is where your desired destination is actually a stopover and you just disembark early. The website was unsuccessfully sued by United, which was interesting and brought it a lot of attention. The creator did an AMA link. reddit.com/r/me/comment/3ux80 to r/united_airlines_suit_me_year_for_creating/ about a month ago. Yeah. And also enjoy getting on an airline's blacklist if you do it a few times. I'm an outstation mechanic for multiple airlines. I cover all flights at a major US city airport by myself. Where to start? If your flight has a maintenance delay and there is no on-station mechanics for that carrier, I get called. If it's a quick fix, I fix it. If not, we check to see if it can be deferred to get fixed later. Either way, most of your delay is spent waiting on me to do all the paperwork to clear the aircraft, or for me to finish the other 7 calls I'm out on to get to your plane. There is also constant pressure on both me and the pilots to clear/fly aircraft that have some fairly significant problems. I have airlines try to get me to sell some pretty sketchy stuff to the pilots to get them to fly and avoid a costly delay. I have no problems telling a pilot to call his controller/dispatchers and tell them to duck off if I'm not comfortable with whatever concoction of deferral action I was asked to perform. Don't get me wrong. The airlines would never willingly fly an unsafe aircraft. But if there is, say, an engine vibration that is just right at a cunt hair under the limit, they will fly it. If the oil is super low, but servicing it will cause a delay, service it at the next stop. If the pilot encounters something at altitude that I can't duplicate on the ground, sign it off and see if it happens again. Those are the ones I usually push back on, depending what it is. Also, if you have to get out of your seat so a mechanic can fix something, don't bitch about it. I get harassed all the time by passengers, even though my sole purpose is to get them in the air. Besides, I tell gate agents all the time not to load packs until I get out there, but they never listen, so go bitch at them. This is turning into a soapbox, so I will stop. Not a secret, just common sense. The reason some bags miss their flight or get misrouted is because passengers don't remove old tags. It confuses handlers as well as the conveyor belt scanners. I see it happen all the time. There is a small latch hidden inside the lavatory sign on the bathroom door, which will open the door when pulled, even when it's locked. Airplane peekaboo. Edit. I don't work for the airlines. Credit for this goes to the oatmeal link. com/comics/airplane_peekaboo. Feel sorry for anyone trying to shit on a plane tomorrow near a curious redditor. I will try this Wednesday. Update. Today is the day you did too. I'm sorry, it appears the lavatory sign is a sticker. There is a plate for a key to slide unlock the door, but no sign trick. I'm sorry. I have delivered, but not the package we were hoping for. Thanks for the amazing upvotes. Employees and their families get ID tickets. ID is for industry discount, which means they only pay taxes and fees and nothing for the actual ticket. The airlines basically lets them fly for free, and not just with their own airline, but with every airline in any alliance. The tickets are standby tickets, so you're not guaranteed to get on board. but you get a seat more often than not. The family members can travel on these tickets without the employee. My dad worked for an airline in Star Alliance, so I used to get free tickets with airlines in One World and SkyTeam as well as Star Alliance. I usually traveled in business class, all around the world. A return trip between Europe and Japan was something like $200 in business class, and maybe $50 in economy. I don't get any perks anymore, as it was only valid until I turned 25. I enjoyed this perk until I turned 25. 2. In Germany. 4 trains. Yeah, well, I mean trains are expensive in Germany. When the drink cart is coming through, you can ask for a full can of pop instead of the tiny little cup filled with mostly ice. You usually receive a nasty look from the stewardess when you ask. Not particularly a secret, but one time I was upgraded to business class on a plane that was delayed for maintenance. Just settling into my middle row / aisle seat up at the movie screen / bulkhead when a hatch in the floor of the cabin right at my feet flipped open and the maintenance engineer climbed up. He had a clipboard of paperwork for the pilot to sign, then climbed back into his hole, tipping his hat to the passengers before closing the hatch over his head. If you look for it, you can see a recessed pull ring in the cabin floor in front of the first row seats behind cockpit. 757 wide body I think. Edit. Yeah, I get it. 757 is narrow body. That was the I think. Must have been a 767 then, as was before 777 started flying. Just how many L's does this plane have? This is a 5L plane. 4 of them are at the turbines pedaling and 1 is at the back where the control surfaces are. Technically the plane can fly with 3, but we like a little elf redundancy. I work revenue management for an airline. On average, the cheapest time to buy a ticket is Tuesday afternoon. The cheapest time to fly is Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday. This applies to US flights in my experience. Aerospace fastener production here. Nobody there asks what is actually holding TH plane together. Don't worry about it. The coffee is absolutely disgusting because no one washes the container that goes out every morning. The station agents who get paid way too little don't give a shit about cleaning it. I certainly didn't when I worked for AA. Also, because we weren't given the proper supplies to clean it, we pretty much just rinsed it out and dumped coffee into it. Be nice to the ticket agent and they will pretty much always let you get away with overweight bags. If you were funny, I'd even not charge you for bags. Worked on military aircraft, but it's something I've noticed pretty universal about jet engines in general. You have your auxiliary engine that runs while the aircraft is parked, providing power, hydraulics, etc. while you're at the terminal. When getting ready to depart, you turn on your main engines. It takes a lot of power to get them started. As such, most of the auxiliary power goes to starting the engines. This is the point where usually you may see the lights flicker, and you will hear the whine of the main engine start up. The environmental control unit, or whatever they want to call it, stops cycling air during this start sequence. Without fail, if you watch for it, numerous hands will stick up and check or adjust the air conditioning vents as this happens. The air will kick back on when the engines are up and running. Edit. Okay. Till and had forgotten. Jet engines use pneumatic power to start engines. I worked on jet turbines for turboprop. I have my manuals and storage, so I can't completely erase all doubt. But I do believe we used a hydraulically actuated starter. When getting ready to depart, you turn on your main engines. It takes a lot of power, usually hydraulic, to get them started. I've never heard of a plane that uses hydraulic power to start engines. I'm rated in 6 different jets and they all use either pressurized bleed air from the APU, auxiliary power unit, or electric power, on very small jets, to start. The reason the air conditioner cuts out when starting the engines is it also uses the same bleed air to cool the cabin. Bleed air valves close during engine start to channel all the bleed air from the APU to the engines for the startup sequence. Hydraulics don't typically start engines. Hydraulics operate things like brakes, spoilers, flight controls, nose wheel steering, landing gear, and thrust reversers. I believe some military jets have a system where it uses oil pressure in an accumulator to spool up engine or APU, I don't know. Cool system whether it exists or not. As shown in some movies like Executive Decision and Passenger 57, there is a secret hatch on every plane that allows people to travel freely throughout the aircraft. Also, Wade Boggs once drank 50 beers on a cross-country flight and then absolutely destroyed the Seattle Mariners the next day. May he rest in peace. Hey boss hog. What's happening? Worked at multiple airports as a consultant, and this is common at almost all I've worked at. Mechanics love to take their coffee breaks right behind the security checkpoint. This is where you will see women in a rush with their outermost garments off and bending over to put their shoes back on. The jackpots are passengers that didn't know a sweater or hoodie they are wearing had to come off until they are told to remove it by that sap, so they have very little underneath. I wasn't part of this, so don't downvote me. Just telling the tales of the trade. Not an airport. I worked at a theme park in Florida. There was a water ride where ladies would often get their blouses splashed with water. There was a bridge over a part of the ride where you could look straight down as the riders went by. It was a very popular place for male employees to stop and look over the rail of the bridge for a few minutes. Was the ride in Orlando, and was it the Pope's ride? I work fleet service for a major airline at a smaller airport. That means I clean your plane inside and out before it goes out. We clean your plane every now and then. It ranges wildly how long the plane has been out. Sometimes we would get a plane once or twice a week. Other times it would be a month until we get to deep clean it. Quit putting your duckine gum everywhere, you savage. It takes ducking forever to peel that shit off. Quit using your bath bags to put trash in and stuff it under your seat. Why take the safety cards? We need those safety cards. Sometimes we clean only the back outside of the plane instead of the entire plane. Front ain't dirty. Why clean it? I get to sit in the cockpit and look at all that cool shit. Woo. I love writing in the bins. P. What are some things you draw in them? I'm guessing tons and tons of dicks. Dicks everywhere. Nice try. Al-Qaeda. I thought it was ISIS now. Terrorist groups are just fads nowadays. I remember the good old days of the IRA. A Ryanair secret that was exposed in a documentary featuring undercover footage was that useful in an emergency types were encouraged to move from seat A1, I think, as people who sat in A1, in the event of an emergency that threw them forwards, would be impaled on a metal lever in front of them, therefore rendering them useless to help others. Bumpy landings would be a nightmare if you could see the pilot link. imga.com/tyop4j. Jiv. Nah, he's just listening to some fat techno tunes through his headphones. If you're European, you have really good consumer protection against delays, cancellations, etc. If you're more than 3 hours late, your compensation starts at €250 and goes up depending on the length of your flight and the length of the delay. When I went to London a few years ago, my flight was overbooked, so I got bumped to a flight 4 hours later. The compensation I got was more than the ticket I bought. Round trip. All airline employees fly standby for free. Gate agents, rampers, mechanics. If they are an employee for the airline, they get unlimited free standby. So does their spouse/parents/children. Anytime you're at the gate and you see a list of standby passengers, chances are they're an airline employee. Also, you'd be surprised by how much stuff actually breaks on an airplane. Hint, a lot. Most of the broken stuff is insignificant, but every once in a while something big, like an APU, or a flight computer, or the autopilot, will break and the mechanics defer it to get the aircraft airborne. It's not unsafe. It's just more work for the pilots usually. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.